last year.
Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our men's advanced Bible study. The 13th of June, 2025. Okay, we'll be reading out of the book of Jasher, chapters 10 and 11. Okay. You can go to our YouTube channel, The Prophets of Awakening, check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at. A lot of information. You can go in and check them out, examine the videos, and if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. Okay. For those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Savior and our Redeemer, the Lord of hosts. Okay. This channel was created to aid and assist all Hebrews who are waking up in these last days to their true identity. Shalom and welcome to the channel. Welcome to our men's advanced Bible study. Okay, we're going to draw our normal, which is the moment of silence, prayer, psalms. We have the current events, some need to know information. We open it up for some Q&A, comments and dialogue. And then we're going to our topic for discussion, which is we'll be playing the video African prophecy and then breaking it down. Okay, then we'll be reading out of the book of Jasher, chapters 10 and 11, doing a comparison and contrast, and then we'll pick a scripture and then we'll close out. Okay, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. O Lord, righteousness and uprightness belongs unto thee. Therefore we come before thee at this hour, seeking our face and looking for righteousness and uprightness, that we may walk before thee as our servants David and Solomon, Samuel and Hezekiah did, that we may walk before thee in truth and in righteousness and in rightness of heart. Give unto us, O Lord, an understanding heart, that we may discern between good and bad, for we know that you have the power to turn us. We desire to walk after thee, O Lord, and keep your commandments, testimony, your statutes with all our heart and soul, perform the words of this covenant that was written down by your prophets. O Lord, allow our faith to shine upon our people. Hear our plea. Hear, O Lord, and do. Hide not thy face from us, for we need you so very much at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. We'll read a psalm.
Shalom. Brother Leonard, I'll be reading Psalms 80, a psalm of Asaph. Give ear, O shepherd of Israel, thou that leadest Joseph like a flock, thou that dwellest between the cherubims, shine forth. Before Ephraim and Benjamin and Manasseh, stir up thy strength and come and save us. Turn us again, O God, and cause your face to shine, and we shall be saved. O Lord God of hosts, how long wilt thou be angry against the prayer of thy people? Thou feedest them with the bread of tears, and givest them tears to drink in great measure. Thou makest us a strife unto our neighbors, and our enemies laugh among themselves. Turn us again, O God of hosts, and cause your face to shine, and we shall be saved. Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast out the heathen and planted it. Thou preparest room before it, and didst cause it to take deep root and fill the land. The hills were covered with the shadow of it, and the boughs thereof were like the goodly cedars. She sent out her boughs onto the sea, and her branches onto the river. Why hast thou then broken down her hedges, so that all they which pass by the way do pluck her? The boar out of the wood doeth waste it, and the wild beast of the field doeth devour it. Return, we beseech thee, O God of hosts, look down from heaven, and behold, and visit this vine in the vineyard which thy right hand hath planted, in the branch that you made is strong for thyself. It is burned with fire, it is cut down, for they perish at the rebuke of thy countenance. Let thy hand be upon the man of your right hand, upon the Son of Man, whom thou madest strong for yourself. So will not we go back from thee. Quicken us, and we will call upon thy name. Turn us again, O Lord God of hosts. Cause your face to shine, and we shall be saved. Shalom. Psalms 8.
Okay, you got any comment feedback on that?
Well, Brother Leonard, this was one of the ones you had kept mentioning all in the Psalms where he's saying shine forth, and this was one of them I had found when I was reading, and but Brother Leonard, the verse, where is it at? Where it says verse 17, let thy right hand be upon the man of your right hand, upon the Son of Man, whom you made strong for yourself. That's a question, sir. I'm sorry. I was. Can you break that verse down?
Yeah, that's David. So
Right. That's
so
what I
so
was thinking. Okay.
when you go to First Samuel, when he sent Nathan to go anoint David, went to send him to Jesse's house to anoint David. But once he went there, the first all of Jesse's sons at first, he didn't choose them. Then he asked him, was it another boy? And he said, yeah, he out in the field keeping the sheep. So he told him to go get him. And when he brought David in there, the Lord of hosts told him, this is he. Take your horns and anoint him with it. So he said, he chose David. But when the Israel first came into the land, they wanted a king. The people chose Saul. They wanted them a king over them, like the other nations which they had came across in Deuteronomy chapter 2, and they all were giants. So that's why Saul was so uh, he was tall, head and shoulders to everybody else, because they wanted their king to resemble the kings of the other nations. So the people chose Saul, and that's why it didn't work out. Then the Lord of hosts chose David, his king. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so yeah, a lot of people can kind of read over that, but yeah, people chose Saul, and then after that, after Saul failed, then the Lord chose David to be his king, to be his anointed one. Okay,
Mm.
so
And Brother Leonard, and when it in verse 19, when it's saying, turn us again, O Lord God of hosts, cause your face to shine, and we shall be saved. What exactly is the Lord of hosts doing uh when he causing his face to shine? Is he showing his true form, or why is that so big? Because that it's they make an emphasis on him shining in this Psalms.
well, it's like a he illuminated himself the same way when Moses came down from the mountain after he had been up there for those 40 days, 40 nights. He was illuminated. He was like a glow.
Right.
Same way in the garden with the serpent. That's why the shining one. That's who came in the garden. So they had this and then when you go back and start doing research, like for instance, when you watch the movie the 300, you remember Artaxerxes? How
Yes,
they
sir.
had him on his big platform.
Right, and carried him around.
Right, but before that, they would make this big old pool full of gold, like liquid gold, and then he would walk into down into that pool, and then he had that appearance that he was shining forth, trying to be like the gods.
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Ain't that something?
Right. Yes, sir.
Right. So with that being said, we'll go to our current events, and we'll play them, we'll break them down. Got a lot going on tomorrow, so yeah, here we go.
You're going to take out of the land. It says,
I'm along. Get it. Okay.
More now on a breaking news story we are following from the Middle East this hour. Air raid sirens have sounded across Israel following an Iranian missile attack on the country. Before we took a short break, we were showing you live images from the night sky. Now we are showing you pictures coming in from the ground. You can see this is a completely chaotic situation. I believe we're looking at pictures from Tel Aviv. And again, this comes after an Iranian missile attack on Israel. The rumble of explosions could be heard throughout Jerusalem. Israeli TV stations showing plumes of smoke rising in Tel Aviv after this missile strike. What you're looking at now is emergency services on the ground, an incredibly heavy police presence, areas cordoned off. There are no reports of any casualties, but you can see emergency services are on standby as we wait to learn more about the scope of this retaliatory attack. We can also tell you the Army says dozens of missiles were launched. We witnessed some of that in our live shots earlier. The Army has now ordered residents across Israel to move into bomb shelters. That is really the message. So again, air raid sirens sounding across the country of Israel following an Iranian missile attack on the country. This is an unprecedented escalation. This is a dramatic development, one that will have the international community reacting to it for sure. And it comes after Israel attacked Iran's capital early Friday local time in strikes that targeted the country's nuclear program and killed at least 2 top military officials, raising the potential for an all-out war between the two adversaries, Iran and Israel. Their hostilities date back to decades ago, and that attack appeared to be the most significant attack that Iran has faced since its 1980s war with Iraq. Iran promised retaliation, and that is what we are seeing now. Is Israel saying that dozens of missiles have been launched, no casualties reported, but we are waiting to learn more about, again, the scope and the nature of this attack. Multiple strikes, we can tell you, around the country were hit in Iran, including Iran's main nuclear enrichment facility, where black smoke could be seen rising into the air. This is an operation Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has talked about. He's called it Rising Lion. He says the strikes will continue for days until the nuclear threat is eliminated. Again, the ongoing military and intelligence operation raising the potential for an all-out war between the two countries, propelling.
Okay. You heard anything about that?
Yes, sir. I've been seeing clips of the attacks and things like that. It's sounding like it's escalating real soon. The what's it called, Brother Leonard? The King Alfred plan. Sound like this is like, I mean, it's been going on, but now it's like actually, you know what I'm saying? It done.
Right, exactly.
It
Yeah,
done kicked up.
it's something going on with it. There's something going on with it because of it's like I mean the same thing happened what 2 or 3 months ago. They Iran was shooting missiles at Israel. Israel shot missiles. It's like they pecking at something. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Especially Israel. All right. Yeah. So with that being said, we can go to this next video. Yeah, this right here is something to pay attention to. This we already know what's going on in it's in Texas already. The ICE raids and the protests in California and in New York. But here we go. Right, check this out. Like I was saying before, like with you should have been expecting Abbott to show up, that nut bucket in Texas, and this and Ron DeSantis in Florida. And they go their response in Florida.
If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and then jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order. Not here, not in the state of Florida. So to make it real simple, if you don't want to have any of those things happen to you, obey the law. Go protest all you want. Do it peacefully. Stand on the mountaintops and yell your opinion, your views. We invite that. But don't you dare break the law, because it won't go well for you. I want to start out by thanking our Attorney General for joining us here in beautiful Brevard County. Our Attorney General and Governor Ron DeSantis also for their amazing support for law enforcement. Public safety in our communities is like nothing we've ever seen before. People are moving to Florida in droves because this is the free state of Florida. They're moving here because they know their families will be safe here. Their businesses will be safe. They won't have to contend with what we're seeing in places like Los Angeles and New York and Chicago, those things that are happening right now as we stand here today speaking. Our general was, I will say, very instrumental, was the tip of the spear in our blueprint for Free Florida. And now he's the tip of the spear in making sure that we are protecting what I like to call our 3 C's, our citizens, our cops, and our Constitution. And he has stood strong with not only law enforcement, but with us here in Brevard County, and we appreciate you. I'm gonna start out by addressing the doxing issue that we were talking about. Our ICE agents, just like our Florida Highway Patrol, are our partners. We all ride together in this. We all are out here to make sure that we're protecting our citizens, protecting our communities. Many of them have been called to the border. Many of them have been called to other locations to deal with the amount of fugitives and things that are going on, detainers. So for us, we will have their back. We will work closely with Colonel Howes and his team in making sure that we're increasing patrol. We're watching them. Anybody that's doxing them, as General said, we passed a law about 4 or 5 years ago that makes it illegal to dox here in the state of Florida. So anybody that's doing that, we will take them to full task on doing it. We will stand with you. I want to define a couple things, and our general was very kind in how he said things. I'm not as usually as elegant in how I say things. So I'm gonna first say that peaceful protests are part of our democracy. We invite people to share their opinions. That's what our country is all about. The key word in that is peaceful. And if it's peaceful, us in law enforcement are going to make sure you have a safe environment to do it in. That's part of that process. If you let it turn violent, You do not want to do that in Brevard County. I'm going to tell you that, and I believe I can speak for my fellow sheriffs around the rest of the state. You don't want to let it happen. And just so there's no confusion, because I don't want to hear any whining later saying we didn't know, I'm going to break it down for you. All right? Because as you watch these riots unfold across the rest of the country, what you are seeing is buildings being burned down, police cars being bricked, having explosive devices thrown on them, having fire, guns pointed at them, bricks thrown at them, all in all. So I'm gonna break it down for you. All right. And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired, because we're going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order. Not here, not in the state of Florida. So to make it real simple, if you don't want to have any of those things happen to you, obey the law. Go protest all you want. Do it peacefully. Stand on the mountaintops and yell your opinion, your views. We invite that. But don't you dare break the law, because it won't go well for you. All right, Jim? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think, our great governor, I think, said it well yesterday. If you're a family out there, you're driving, and all of a sudden you get surrounded by one of these angry demonstrations that's turned violent, you don't need to sit there and wait while people smash your window and damage your vehicle and put your family in jeopardy. You drive. Just drive. Get yourself out of harm's way. Somebody's in front of you and they're threatening your vehicle. You just drive. But we're grateful to have a great president and a governor that respect rule of law. And in Florida, you're not going to see anything like you're seeing in California. Agent Coker.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. As he said, my name is Anthony Coker. I'm an officer with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Department of Homeland Security. Recently, I was sent down here on behalf of ICE headquarters to represent local and state law enforcement for the state of Florida. Mr. Attorney General, as a federal law enforcement officer who lives in the state of Florida, I would like to personally thank you on behalf of all federal law enforcement partners and our families who call Florida home. Knowing that you and the state of Florida have our backs while we perform these duties, we can rest easy, knowing and staying focused on the mission set forth by President Trump, Secretary Noem, Acting Director Todd Lyons, and Deputy Director Madison Sheehanna. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any comments on that? What you think?
I mean, yeah, I think he's not sugarcoating, what the executive orders that Trump's putting out. I mean, this dude, because he's the one taking action. You know what I'm saying? And so
Right.
he letting you know they ain't playing. He just said they're not playing. So that's that tells me what time it is.
Okay. Yeah. Exactly. And they going, like I said, they going from this is just the beginning. This is a setup. I was thinking about that when we was back a couple of months ago. We was breaking down what was written in Project 2025, and then we looked at the documentary about can't think of the name of it on
Bad faith.
yeah, Bad Faith. I'm trying to think of what the hell they call those people, national something, Christian nationalists.
Christian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
white Christian nationalists.
yeah, they was talking about how did they let me keep on losing my train of thought. I had some. Let me get it. I come back to it when it come back to my mind. Let me see where I'm at. Yeah. So when the guy was talking about how they gonna do this to the people and do that to the people, it's with the Christian nationalists, how they got to the point to where they was at. Their objective is not what's that ruling they made in the Supreme Court with abortion. They used abortion. That was a cover, but that's not really what they're doing. And so now their objective is to up with us. We see all the executive orders is pointing toward us, but they're using immigration as a cover. Just like they use abortion to get to where they at, they attacked them like they was, the abortion laws, but that wasn't their agenda. That was a cover to come in the door. And right here, the same thing. They're using immigration as a cover. And so once they get in the door and what they want to do, then they're gonna go to their objective. Like I said, which is King Apple Plan and Rex 84. It's all set up. Okay. So with that being said, any comments on that?
Oh, no, sir. No, sir.
All right. So with that being said, here we go. This all needs some need to know information. Okay. This was going down. It already started, but it's really gonna come to head tomorrow. And this is what this guy's talking about. He preparing for. Here we go.
This is Democracy Now! An overnight curfew for downtown Los Angeles has been announced by Mayor Karen Bass following days of protest against federal immigration raids. Mayor Bass cited vandalism and looting of local businesses as the reason for the curfew. President Trump's ordered the deployment of 700 Marines who will be arriving in Los Angeles today to join thousands of members of the National Guard who've also been deployed to the city. Speaking at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, President Trump criticized the California governor and Los Angeles mayor who opposed the deployments. Some of the troops in the audience booed at the mention of their names.
In Los Angeles, the governor of California, the mayor of Los Angeles, they're incompetent, and they paid troublemakers, agitators, and insurrectionists. They're engaged in this willful attempt to nullify federal law and aid the occupation of the city by criminal invaders. That's what it is. They're invaders, no different.
Protests against militarized immigration enforcement have spread to other cities like New York, Chicago, and Atlanta. This weekend, on Saturday, under the banner of No King's Day, at least 18,000 rallies have been organized nationwide. More and more.
That's what's coming tomorrow. 18,000 rallies. That's just with this protest called No Kings. This ain't including what's already on the ground with the ICE raids, and then the people that's protesting what he's gonna do tomorrow with the parade, the military parade. So it ain't looking good right now.
Joining every day. This coincides with a major military parade that will be taking place in the Capitol. Tanks and other armored vehicles are being transported to Washington, D.C. for the parade on June 14th, which is Donald Trump's 79th birthday and the U.S. Army's 25th anniversary. On Tuesday, President Trump threatened heavy force would be used against anyone who protests at the parade.
and we're going to be celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protest that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but you know, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
Protest organizers are encouraging participants to go to Philadelphia instead of Washington, D.C. For more on the latest news, the troop deployments, and the planned rallies this weekend, we're joined by two guests. Leah Greenberg is co-founder and co-executive director of Indivisible. The group is organizing the No Kings Day protests on June 14th. And Jojo Sweat, a former Marine and the organizing director for the veterans group Common Defense, who will also be taking part in the No Kings Day protests planned in over 1,800 cities. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Leah Greenberg, if you could begin by explaining your group, Indivisible, is organizing this protest, these mass protests across the country. Explain why.
Well, when we heard and got the news that Donald Trump was planning this military parade, we understood it as part of a broader effort to project power, to chill dissent, to cement authoritarian control around this country, right? This is not just a parade. It's part of a bigger campaign that is involved attacking state government, or attacking the power of states, attacking civil society, going after labor leaders like David Huerta, the president of SEIU who in California, who was arrested while peacefully protesting ICE detentions or ICE kidnappings. What we're seeing is a wholesale effort to assert dominance and power, from sending troops into LA completely unnecessarily and illegally, to having this military parade in DC for his birthday. And so what we feel like in this moment is really important is for folks to understand he may have his fascist theatrics in DC, but real power comes from people everywhere, all over the country. And so that's why we called for the No Kings protests. And what we've seen, we've got over 1,900 protests now all over the country. We are seeing a skyrocketing number of people who are showing up, who are asking, what can I do, who are horrified by what is happening in LA and who want to stand up. And what we're going to show him on June 14th is that real power lies in the people, lies in the consent of the governed, not in a pageant for your birthday in Washington, D.C.
I wanted to bring Jojo Sweat into this conversation, former Marine with the group Common Defense right now. First, I wanted to get your response to Marines being deployed to the streets of Los Angeles. At this point, 700 of them, though President Trump has now said that National Guard and Marines will be deployed around the country. And also get your response as a former Marine to what we're calling this parade, but in fact, it's more than 24 M1 Abrams tanks, each weighing more than 60 tons. This is why it's costing something like tens of millions of dollars. This parade in Washington to shore up the streets. The question is if they will be damaged by this heavy military hardware. They're going to be going down Constitution Avenue near the White House in a procession that until recently was not part of the 250th anniversary of the Army's programming, accompanied by scores of infantry, fighting vehicles, heavy artillery weaponry, plus some 6,600 soldiers as helicopters fly overhead. So if you could talk first about the Marine deployment as a former Marine, and then about this massive show of force that people usually identify with heavily militarized societies like military parades in North Korea.
First, thank you for having me. And related to Marines and National Guard being deployed to LA, I think it's obviously a terrible idea, especially because it is not the idea of the leadership of the state to invite them to be there. Now, the National Guard has a function and works well within the states that it supports. But by the call and guidance of the governor there in the state, which hasn't been completed. And so it's kind of an overstretch for the president of the United States to be involved in states' affairs in that way when not requested. The other factor about the Marine Corps is that that is not the purpose of our Marine Corps. That is not why the Marine Corps exists. And when I was a Marine, if I wasn't in a combat or war scenario, then I was in a humanitarian scenario. And that's when we're, fixing everything that we've destroyed, and trying to rebuild, not things that we would want to do on U.S. soil. And does it make me feel good that it's the president of the United States that is requesting this type of armed reaction on its citizens, that is citizens that are actually practicing their rights that they have here in the United States? As far as the parade, it's an egregious overspend. It is a showing of his ego. It is also his birthday. It is not just the Army's 250th year of service. It's actually the Marine Corps' birthday later on this year. So we don't have these individual parades or support of parades by the military to the president like you've seen in North Korea. We just went through 2 crazy quarters of this administration with them giving us Doge, and on the pretense that we need to save money as a country and that we're broke. And so to say those things and enact a Doge and talk about cutting 83,000 jobs at the VA and Medicare and care for everyday Americans, but then to host this parade in Washington, D.C., where there's not even really roads to support this. We're spending an egregious amount of money. And for what? A birthday celebration that is completely unnecessary.
Okay, any comments on that?
Brother Leonard, a lot was going on in that. What do you see playing out?
Yeah, I remember the conversation we had before that every time they have something like this, the actual event really take place. So the thing for me is, could all this stuff they bringing to Washington D.C. be cool?
Yes, sir. It got the makings of it.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's something to keep your eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? Okay, y'all play a little more of this.
If you could talk more about the amount of money, for example, the 45 million, it started at 20 million, but now it's gone up, as you point out, then yet thousands of jobs have been lost through Doge. If you could talk about the healthcare and cuts to veterans' healthcare.
Yeah, these cuts to veterans' healthcare are already showing up, actually, especially in rural communities or with veterans that are using specialty services specifically for cancer treatment. We're talking to those veterans already who are being affected, who are being denied care, who have lost their psychiatrists, their therapists on staff. And so turning around and spending that money in the face of America for a parade for a president does not seem like you really care. And we were in DC just the first week of May, trying to interface and speak with Secretary Doug Collins. And in fact, he actually ran from us when we asked him the question about cutting 83,000 jobs and then having a parade for the president. But a lot of these representatives don't want to answer those questions, or they want to relate it to recruiting. And I don't think that this is what recruiting dollars should be spent on.
Is working on is that of Black veteran Marlon Paris from Trinidad and Tobago, who was detained in Phoenix, Arizona, just days after Trump's inauguration in January. This is his wife, Tanisha Hartwell Paris.
I am having to visit my husband through a glass window, and I do not know when he's coming home.
So could you tell us more about the case?
Yeah, I'm really close with the Paris family in Arizona. As you reported, Marlon was picked up several days after the Trump administration took office and after their immigration policies went into play. Although Marlon Paris had committed the crime, he served his sentence. He left that system and became a viable member of our society. You know, once he had adequate treatment, once he got access to his VA services after being deployed to war several times, and I want to stress that his crime was a nonviolent crime. The minute Trump became in office, Marlon Paris was leaving his home in his neighborhood in Phoenix, Arizona to go to work, and was just randomly targeted, picked up, and detained, and has been detained since January 22nd. His court date continues to be pushed out so that we can try to mitigate whatever is happening with his paperwork that's causing all of this. There are been many missteps that have happened within his immigration process, but one thing that we know for sure is that he has a letter of no interest, which is a letter that you get when any situation comes up in your life where you're eligible for deportation. So he got that no interest letter at the end of his court case and serving his time. In addition to that, his green card was renewed after that in 2017, and it's not even set to expire until 2027. But there was an error when he was coming back from vacation into the United States in 2023, I believe, and they confiscated his green card. And he's been trying to reobtain his green card through legal representation since that happened. He was allowed re-entry into the country, but they took away his documents. And in the fight to try to get those back, suddenly this man has been detained under the new administration, and we haven't been able to rectify the situation. And he's currently detained in Florence, and our next court date is in August.
Okay, sound like Pastor Manning to me. Anybody else got any comments on that?
Shalom, shalom, brother Leonard. That is what it sounds like.
Okay.
Rounding the people up. Because also now too, yesterday when I was talking to a friend of mine, he knows one of his friends. He has a Latino friend, and he got snatched up, and he grew up here. He went to school with us. I don't know if he has a green card or if he actually has citizenship, but I know he got a business and everything like that, is in the community and everything, and he got picked up this week. So it is increasing because now I'm seeing it in action.
Right. And then another thing too, notice like I was saying how they're using camouflage and everything. They did with the like I said, they was using abortion. That wasn't their agenda, but they used abortion to get in the door, and now they're using this immigration thing, which they set up with the when you go back to Rex 84, when King Albert plan, they amended it. Ronald Reagan amended it, Rex 84 to it. So they brought allowed all these Mexicans in here, and said now they're implementing this, trying to get them out of here. When you let them in here, you freely let them in here, because there's no difference when you understand what's really going on. Ain't no difference in the Democratic and Republican Party. They're all working to the same goal.
Right. Yes, sir.
You got us brainwashed, thinking a transformation happens when the Republicans go in, contrary to what the Democrats. But it's no matter what party it is. The agenda is they're all working together for the same agenda. So the Democrats let the immigrants in here, which is part of Rex 84. Now the immigrants here, now they come with Project 2025, and now they get rounding them up. But their objective is to round up the Negroes, the Hebrews. Okay, that's the end result. Okay, anybody else got any comments? Okay, can't hear you. Joseph, can't hear you. gotta do something to your mic. You're not coming in. You might want to go out and come back in. Okay. Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna go to our Q&A. Anybody have any questions, comments, any dialogue? Anything they want to talk about? Anything they heard? Some more they want to add that they heard on the news or they heard on YouTube, doing their research, they want to share it online.
Shalom, Brother Leonard. I have been looking at looking at Ezekiel 37, Ezekiel 38, within the times that we're in, and with these news clips that we're seeing and everything. But I was just looking in a little more at because everybody says that Russia was not a part of the Berlin Conference or whatever, when they scrambled Africa.
Okay.
They say they weren't a part of that, but even back then it was hard for them to get there. But you also had talked about this in the lesson too, that Russia was reserved for the end, for a certain time. And so then, sir, I was looking at how people think Russia hasn't had a presence in Africa. But then when I was looking at that, like in these last few years, like militarily, but they are there, that Wagner group, one of those, one of those military kind of groups. And then just the biggest thing for me is when it says take the spoil, and how they really just cornered all the gold mines, and then they just made some big deal with Congo for oil.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So it's like that, right? So I'm just thinking, I guess I don't know if it's a statement or a question, but if you could kind of just tie all that together for us, it's just because so much information I'm seeing every day. I almost, well, not even almost, I can't keep up with all the information. But that is one thing I see that's prevalent, me knowing who Russia is. And so with that on my mind, every time I see a news clip of them, I see what they're doing. And it's like, like it's really happening. Then it get me excited, then kind of anxious at the same time, because I'm like, the Lord of hosts coming. But it's almost like I don't know exactly what all we're gonna see in Russia's destruction. So, but yeah, that was a lot. But
yeah. So like I was saying before, was when you really understand who our Redeemer is, who our Messiah is, and all that, because we've been brainwashed on that. But when you really understand who the Redeemer is, and what he did in Egypt, and like I was saying before, I was talking earlier about a comparison, contrast with we in captivity over here in America, and our forefathers in captivity in Africa, where the Israelites had a certain place they was at from the time they got there. They was sick. They was given Pharaoh that was with Joseph gave them Goshen. So most of the Hebrew Israelites, they was in Goshen. And then when you understand when the 10 plagues came, the Lord of hosts understood that. We was reading it the other day where he kept telling them, I didn't been there. I didn't visited you. I heard your cries. So in order for him to hear the cries, that means he had been there. He ain't necessarily, nobody saw him, but he showed up there. So it's the same thing here. It's a place where when we came here, that we was in the South. Majority of the Hebrew Israelites is in the South. And so when you look at the King James plan, they got 10 different locations, regions that they got corded off for when the King James plan actually take place. And 2 of those regions is the D South 1, D South 2. all of both of those D South 1 and 2 is in the South. So we got to reach it just like we Israelites in Goshen, and they was protected. We got the South here in America. We already know, and nothing gonna happen to us when you understand. When you overstand who our Redeemer is. I mean, it didn't nothing happen to our forefathers in Egypt when he brought the 10 plagues. So it's nothing gonna happen to us here. They was there when he brought all the drums. They was there. Then he brought them out. So the same thing is nothing new under the sun. We're gonna be here, but we ain't gotta do nothing. Our forefathers didn't have to do nothing in Egypt when they got delivered. Okay. So you got your mic straight, Joseph? You got
Can
something?
you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what you got?
Oh, finally. No, I was just trying to say before, is it my imagination, or does it seem like the whole judicial system is like irrelevant? Because Donald Trump continue breaking the laws, and these court systems, bringing down rulings for him to turn things back, and he's not doing any of it. So I don't even understand why that system's in place. It doesn't seem to be working. And, I read just recently that he's covering much more than just Cubans. It's Mexicans, Cubans, and yeah. So I'm wondering when he's gonna get to us. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I was listening to a video yesterday. Matter of fact, I think I played it on the women's line. The guy made that statement. He said, which is the Rex 84, when you understand the King Albert plan, that he said they dealing with the brown people right now. But once they get that situated, they coming for us, the Israelites. Okay, I think that's what a lot of people hear.
I believe that's exactly what's happening. That's why they're trying to draw us out there in these protests and all that, looking for every reason. And I did tell you that I think we're coming up to the Puerto Rican Day Parade, which is is a national thing, and they may even use that as an excuse for martial law.
Well, right. All that's going to do is that's fuel for the
brown people. So
yeah, that's fuel for the fire. Yeah, and you got something, AJ?
Oh, shalom. I was gonna say, and Juneteenth is coming up.
Okay, yeah. I forgot all about that. Yeah, so like I was saying, they believe me, they know all this. They already know all this. All this is being set up. And like I was saying earlier, you can't leave out the fact that all them tanks. See, everybody talking about the money they spent to get those tanks there. Well, they might, you got to look at it, they might have a whole other agenda for all that armory they brought to Washington, D.C. It could be that they don't have no plans on taking it back. When you look at the previous situations that happened in the past with the way Russia invaded Ukraine, you know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry, brother. I was gonna say that makes sense what you're saying, and when I'm thinking about that movie again, Civil War, because that when they ran in the White House.
Exactly. Right. They had tanks and all that there when it went down.
Right. Yes, sir.
Right. And the crazy part about it too, I was checking out how on Women's Line yesterday, how we watching that video with Stacey Abrams on how and we are not tuned into all this stuff, but they are. They birth rate is so low. How they trying to deal with all that? So it's so many things that they see that's crippling to them, and we ain't paying no attention to. But they can see that it's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm out there, and that storm is going it's not going to favor them. When they all come together, it's not going to be in their favor. And they're trying to cut it off. Oh, yeah. Okay. Everybody good on that one?
I think that no matter how you look at it, whether it has to do with, driving the immigrants out or not, I think really they're preparing for this war that's coming. We know what's going on between Israel and Iran. The United States has been wanting this war for a long time, and they've wanted to drag Russia into it, which Russia promised that if Israel attacked Iran, that they would obviously get involved. So we can see there's a lot of shooting back and forth right now. United States are making threats too. So maybe they're trying to gather everybody up here before they enter into this war with Israel against Iran, and probably Russia and probably China at the same time.
Right. Exactly. So yeah. That makes sense. You got to also think about too. Israel, they want their big brother, America. They if you go back to the past with the Pearl Harbor incident and with when they sunk that Lusitania in World War I, their objective is to get America involved. America ain't fully involved now. So, but what they doing with Iran is trying to, they want to get America engaged. The beast, because America the one with all with the firepower, and Russia got firepower, and China got firepower, but they're not with Israel. But America got firepower, but they back with Israel. Okay.
Even though some of the European nations are saying that they're not going to come in the defense of Israel, but I wonder if that's just all talk. When
Oh yeah, right, exactly, right. Yeah, we're gonna get into that in a minute with this this breakdown of Africa and the end time.
Oh, okay.
Which is our topic for discussion. Okay. Anybody else got anything else on that? Yeah, let me play this right here. I thought this is pretty interesting because it ain't gonna end good, but yeah, we'll play it. Okay, here we go.
The military parade that Donald Trump is having for his birthday in Washington, D.C., where tanks will be rolling down the streets, troops will be marching, there will be helicopters in the sky. Yeah, that event he's really excited about, his big dictatorial moment, is on the verge of backfiring in the funniest way possible, and it's angry Americans who are going to do it. So I want to break down this story for you really quickly. But first and foremost, I want to give you some context on just how disastrous this protest is setting up to be, not only for the American people, but also Donald Trump himself. So yesterday in the Oval Office, during a press conference, he warned that protesters of his military parade will face very heavy force. And he didn't just specify Washington, D.C., he just basically said anywhere in the country, which is interesting because on the same day, the No Kings protest
So remember what we just listened to, this nut bucket in Florida. He's spewing out the same thing Trump talking about.
Scheduled across the United States, millions of Americans coming out, making their voices heard against the Trump administration. And it doesn't seem like Donald Trump wants that very much. During this press conference in the Oval Office, he told reporters that they're going to be celebrating big on Saturday, referring to the parade that will wind its way through downtown Washington, D.C. He also went on and added, quote, if there's any protester that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. I haven't even heard about a protest, but this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force. And the White House didn't respond to comment, and they didn't answer follow-up questions on, like, what does that force look like? What does Donald Trump mean when he says that? Because I don't even think his staff understands what he means when he says that. But this is also incredibly dictatorial, saying, hey, if you use your First Amendment right against me, the president of the United States, somebody that you disagree with, I will put your protest down. And he's saying that about a military protest, the same kind of protest that we see in dictatorships like North Korea. It's just very, very strange. But also, I want to show you other clips that you might have seen recently, which talks about like the breadth of this protest. Look at all these tanks being driven into Washington, D.C. on a train recently. Just have a look.
Something going on with that. Something going on with that.
I mean, is that not just like incredibly scary? I understand it's just tanks coming into Washington, D.C., but I think it represents something far bigger. I think it represents Donald Trump's dictatorial tendencies. We've never seen footage like this in the United States, and truly with the Washington Monument in the background, it kind of looks like a movie. It kind of looks like a movie about the United States being taken over by a dictator, and now all these tanks are rolling into Washington, D.C. And I know Republicans are saying, oh, it's just, it's just a birthday celebration. I think it's more than that. Here's another clip of it.
That's a self-propelled gun. That's what that is. DC, baby!
House, but in Washington and in all 50 states, organizers will be staging protests that could dwarf the parade in size. A coalition of pro-democracy, labor, and liberal activists is arranging a full day of counter-programming to make the case that Trump is hijacking the Army celebration to venerate himself, which is true. I think we can all see that. I mean, he's putting his face up around Washington, D.C. and making it all about him, not a...
So they got No Keys Day protest all over 1,800 areas, and then you got people protesting this parade, and you got the ICE protesters. Come on, something going on, man.
About the Army as a wannabe dictator does. Quote, the goal here is to deprive Donald Trump of what he wants in this moment, which is a story about him being the all-powerful political figure of our time, and instead create a contrast with normal everyday people, demonstrating that power in the country still resides with the people, said Ezra Levine, a co-founder of the progressive group Indivisible, who's helping organize these protests. If past protests are a guide, the participants could number in the millions, he said. A total of 1,800 rallies are expected, with events in each congressional district. Each congressional district. That's a major, major win. Another group called Women's March is also arranging protests to coincide with the parade, with a theme of Kick Out the Clowns. Organizers expect up to 5,000 people to participate in Madison, Wisconsin alone, which is amazing. Nothing feels more absurd than the idea of this president having a massive military parade on his birthday. She said it feels surreal for so many of us. So these protests are expected to draw in millions of Americans who are frustrated with Donald Trump, who are angry with what his administration is doing. And it's been perfectly timed for the same day that Donald Trump is having his major birthday celebration, his major military parade that is already on the verge of collapse. It's also, I just want to point out as one more point, it's also meant to rain on Saturday in Washington, D.C. And I actually put out a tweet hoping that it rains, because man, what an amazing addition to the day would it be if it rains for Donald Trump, but everywhere else in the United States is sunny while people are protesting him. But I just view this event that Donald Trump is planning to have as a possible disaster, likely to be a disaster, because Donald Trump could have his event in DC, but in every major town around the United States, and even in local towns around the United States, people will be making their voices heard, protesting against Trump, protesting against this administration, and I hope you're doing it too. I'm going to try to be out there. I'm looking at either New York or Chicago. I'm going to be there. Hope you are too, and I hope to see some of you there. So I will leave.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Shalom. But yeah, yes, sir, Brother Leonard. That is definitely something to that, like you saying.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Like it's something, yeah, something to that. Something's about to happen, because they're definitely trying to cause a reaction in which they're already in place to react to that reaction. That, so
exactly.
I see it.
Right. And then, like I was saying with your boy in the wheelchair, Abbott, he already ain't nothing happening, ain't no chaos in Texas, but he already deploying troops all over Texas. You know what I'm saying? So Like I said, that's one of his buddies from way back in the day. Him and the one in Florida. So they know is that what's the agenda is. Okay, check this, and then this another one is Nut Bucket Friends right here. Tulsi Gabbard. Look what she made, the statement she made, and trucks can cause everybody tripping out on this. Check this out.
Just before the top of the hour, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard posted a bleak video on social media warning of a nuclear holocaust. The 3-minute video includes imagery of atomic blasts and simulations of American cities and landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge being destroyed. Gabbard blames the political elite for pushing the world's superpowers into a global war.
This isn't some made-up science fiction story. This is the reality of what's at stake, what we are facing now. Because as we stand here today, closer to the brink of nuclear annihilation than ever before, political elite and warmongers are carelessly fomenting fear and tensions between nuclear powers. Perhaps it's because they are confident that they will have access to nuclear shelters for themselves and for their families that regular people won't have access to.
Jonathan Lemire, what's the backstory here?
So she went to Hiroshima recently, and that's what she says is why she's posting this. But in many ways, she's accused of parroting Russian talking points here, that it has been from the Kremlin throughout the conflict in Ukraine, that the West, that the US, that NATO is trying to push Russia by punishing it for invading Ukraine, therefore putting the world on the brink of an atomic conflict. That is what she's saying here, that she's afraid that the, quote, elites want this war, and she's a warning to the US and the West to not punish Russia for not agreeing to a Ukrainian ceasefire, because if Russia is punished, they might have to lash out, and we may head up towards the apocalypse. Senator John Kennedy, a Republican, said yesterday when shown this video that he thinks that Gabbard should, quote, change her meds. Caddy K. So she's getting some pushback from Republicans, members of her own party. Well, she was a Democrat, but members of the Trump, those who are normally supportive of the Trump administration. And beyond the obvious Kremlin sort of shadow here, it's just plain weird.
Yeah, it's pretty weird and very ominous. It went out to 3.5 million followers. I mean, I think I would add, is this the best use of the DNI's time? Yeah. It's very well produced. I mean, we do television. This is like a kind of mini documentary. But there's something about this kind of anti-elite, we heard it in the attacks on top universities that comes from the kind of populist strain of the Republican Party at the moment, or at least of the White House at the moment. And there's something even stranger, which is this idea that there is some kind of secret cabal that is behind the scenes pulling the strings, and yet we have Donald Trump in the White House. Is she suggesting that even though Donald Trump is president at the moment, there's still actually this kind of group of secret elites that's running things? I mean, that doesn't seem to add up. So the whole thing is pretty weird. I agree with the senator. It's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Well, we know who those people are behind the scenes.
Yeah, she play like it's some kind of it's crazy, you're ludicrous to even think that. But yeah, that's anybody with common sense knows is a cabal behind all this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, with that, I was saying that we was gonna talk about. I was gonna play this video about African prophecy. It was a lot of good talking points in it, so I'm gonna play it. And then we'll talk about it for a minute, and then I'll go to the book of Joshua.
This in Ezekiel 38:12 and 13, they're going to come and they're going to take land, they're going to take livestock, and they're going to take the things that are in the land that the Bantu people have acquired when they came down to sub-Saharan Africa. What is that? Raw materials, natural gas, oil, minerals, food, things that the other nations desire in Africa are the minerals, the natural gas, the oil, the food security, the trading with people in Africa so that they can be consumers and cheap labor workers for their businesses. And so when you look at all these things, it says in Ezekiel 38:13, it says, "Have thou gathered thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and the possessions of the Israelites?" In the Hebrews, kinyan. Possessions means wealth, land. So when these other nations come to Africa, they're taking the possessions of what the Bantu people naturally have inherited. The wealth and raw materials in the land, the trees, the timber, the agriculture, everything, they're taking it for their wealth and their prosperity and food security. And it even says that now the interesting thing is that in the book of Jubilees, it says in chapter 8, verse 17 to 19, that the three sacred holy sites is the Garden of Eden, Mount Sinai, where God communicated with Moses on the top, and Mount Zion. It says that these three places, are depicted as forming the navel of the earth, or the center facing one another. Now, the navel is also used in the Bible as like the center, or tabik in the Hebrew. And when you look at the Congo, the word Katiopa in the Kikongo language means the center, the navel. And the word that they use to describe the Congo also is Zeta Dianza. Zeta Dianza means the center of the world, of the earth. And this is exactly how we look at Jerusalem and Mount Zion. Now, the interesting thing about Mount Zion being in the territory of Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is in the center of the earth, we see that in Central Africa that you have high mountains, and there's one particular mountain that is a mountain that's not formed by volcanic eruptions and ash buildup. It is a block mountain called the Rwenzori Mountains, or the Mountains of the Moon, or the Rainmaker. And the Rwenzori Mountains, the foot of the Rwenzori Mountains is at the Uganda-Congo border. Now, why am I saying all this? Because the land of Canaan, let's get back to that, is the land of the Israelites. And if it is in sub-Saharan Africa, or the land of Yam, or the land of the south, then in the Bible, we should see directions of how the Israelites traveled south along the Exodus route to the land of Canaan. Well, in Numbers chapter 20, the Israelites are traveling through the wilderness, and they run into Edom or Esau. And they ask Edom or Esau, "Can we travel by your way to get to the land of Canaan?" And Edom says, "No, you cannot." And so they have to go around the land of Edom. In Numbers chapter 21, it says, the next chapter, it says, and this is after the Israelites have passed going around Edom, it says, "And when the king of Arad, the Canaanite, which dwelt in the south, heard tell that Israel came by the way of the spies, then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners." And it says in verse 4 that, "And they," meaning the Israelites, "journeyed from Mount Hor by the way of the Nile River," the Reed Sea, or the River of Reeds. It says that in the Hebrew that the Israelites journeyed and took the path of the Nile River. In the English, it says Red Sea, but in the Hebrew, it's Yam Suf. Yam Suf is not the Red Sea. The Red Sea is derived from a Greek Latin word, erythema or erytheus. Like when you have a rash, it's erythematous. The Erythraean Sea or ocean was not a thing until the 1st century AD, 2,000 years ago. So at the time of Esau and Jacob and the Israelites, there was no such thing called the Red Sea because it's a Latin Greek word. Erythema, Erytheus, ocean or sea, aka the Red Sea. But in the Bible sense, it is the Nile River. So it says in Numbers chapter 21 that the Israelites journeyed by the pathway of the Nile River to go around the land of Edom. So when we look at this, we have to ask ourselves, well, where is the land of Edom according to the Bible and Google today? The land of Edom, when you look at the map on Google, it is in modern day Israel, like in the south, but it is nowhere near today's Red Sea and is nowhere near the Nile River. So how can the land of Edom on Google today be near the Nile River? Well, the land of Edom on Google in the territory that you look at on images, it is not even nowhere near the Gulf of Aqaba. And the Gulf of Aqaba is not the Red Sea. It's not the Erythraean Sea. So what land of Edom really are they talking about? So here's the thing. Now here we're going to get to Ezekiel 38.
Back to Ezekiel 38. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Bible tells us that in Daniel chapter 2, that the Greeks and the Romans, their empires fell. And a new race of people came and conquered Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe. Germanic people, Turkic people, like your Arabs today, your white Arabs today, and your Jews today. And the Germanic people dwell in Western, Eastern Europe and the Isles, Mega. Now we look at the timeline that we're in today. Back in the old days, after Europe was conquered and you had the Eastern Roman Empire, Western Roman Empire, and you had the evolution of the European countries, the EU 27, you see that slavery started. Slavery and colonization of Africa. And who came to Africa? The Europeans did. The Germans, the French, the British, the Dutch, the Spanish, the Portuguese.
Check it out.
These nations came along with the United States. They also participated in slavery in America. And the Black Arabs came and enslaved the Bantu people in East Africa. Okay, so we have these Europeans that are wreaking damage in Africa, enslaving Bantu people, Israelites, and then colonizing the land, dividing the land, parting people up. So now we see in this day and time, not just the Europeans are putting their footstool and colonizing, spoiling, preying upon the people in the land and looting the land. It's newcomers. Who are the newcomers now? The Chinese, the Indians, the Russians.
Is that all in the
second Ezra, right? That's what we keep talking about. It says there are two wings, two little wings that were reserved for the end, Russia and China. You know what I'm saying? Now this ain't nowhere in the New Testament.
Bible? Do you
It's
find
in the
that
Bible.
in the Bible?
And here's the thing. We have to use matter of exclusion.
Okay.
Because when we look at Africa's biggest trade partner today is China. Second is India. Now, we could say the European Union countries collectively is the largest trade partner for Africa, but when you're looking at countries alone, China's number one, India's number two, and then you have what you want to call the United States, France, Germany, and then Russia is at the 15th mark.
Okay.
And we know that these nations, Russia, China, the Arabs, the Jews, but specifically Russia and China, they're not speaking a Germanic language. They're not speaking Hebrew language. They're not speaking a Latin or Italian language. They're not speaking a Hamitic African language. They're not speaking a Shemitic language like Arabic or Hebrew. They're speaking a Japhetic language, but they're not Greeks and Romans. So that means that they have to be descendants of Gomer, Magog, Meshach, and Tubal. But what about the Persians? The Persians are in Ezekiel 38:5. Well, the word Persia comes from the word Ariana. and Ariano or Aryan is what the northern Indians classified themselves back in ancient times. Look at the ancient Hindu Vedic text and the Avesta of the religion of the Zoroastrianism, Old Persian religion. You'll see that the word Arya or Aryana or Aryan derives from an Old Persian word for a people that were the originators of the Old Persian religion and its text, the Avesta, and later we have the Hindu Vedic text, which is like the downstream. So the people in Iran today, they are descendants of Turks from Central Asia, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. They are not the descendants of the real Persians. If you go to the palace of Susa in Iran, you'll see that the Persians were people with melanin, were melanated people. The Iranians today are not melanated, but people in India are. And the languages of the people in North India, like Gujarati, Sindh, Punjabi, and Pakistani languages, they are all connected to the old Persian languages. And I put this in the movie. So here we go through the descendants of Russia, Meshach and Tubal, the European Union, 27 countries, including the United States of America, Magog. We have Gomer, who the Chinese and the Koreans say that they are descendants of Gomer. The Chinese in their ancient literature, before they were practicing Buddhism and different things, they said in their oral history they are descendants of Japheth, son Gomer. Even the Koreans say that they are descendants of Japheth, son Gomer. Gomer, China. China.
Okay, any comments so far? So like I said before, you can see right here that if you got your Hebrew lenses on, that Japhet ain't no kin to Shem. Any comments on that? This Cain descendants.
Right.
Bringing this whole thing to an end. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Genesis 10, the table of nations.
Right. They're not. We already broke it down where when he came to Egypt, he said he made it a point. The 10 plagues was to let the world know, and anybody that reading these scriptures, that it's a difference between Shem, between the Israelite and the Egyptian. So how they some kin? How they got the same God if they all came from Noah, which the God of Israel, God of the Hebrews, loved Noah. Why is he punishing his son Ham and not punish and he's showing favoritism towards Shem and punishing Ham? And why is Ham even doing what he's doing to Israel? Because they ain't no kid. And the same thing what we're looking at in these last days. We over here captive among Japhet. And we ain't got nothing. Japhet ain't no kin to us. These are children of wickedness. And we told Noah, he said, get a male and a female of all flesh. Well, he had to get a male and a female from Cain descendants. And he had to get a male and a female from the 6th-day man. When he created the woman and the man in Genesis chapter 6. And so if you don't know that or understand that, then you can't even you can't participate in trying to break down these end time events if you don't understand that. Okay. Anybody got anything else on that? Put a little more of this. So if you want to watch this whole video, it's an African prophet in biblical prophecy. It's the truth about Russia and China. Put a little more.
So books and maps, mankind has the ability to add, change, delete, hide. But when you talk about factual evidence, like why is the word giraffe in the Bible? Why is the word lion in the Bible? Leopard, ostrich, hyena, jackal, wolf, crocodile, elephant. Why are they all in the Bible? Wild bull. A wild bull is not a domesticated bull. It's a African buffalo, a wildebeest. Wild ass. What is a wild ass? A donkey is domesticated. What is a wild donkey? It's a zebra. Why is the word monocorus or rhinoceros in the Bible, but then they changed it to unicorn in the King James English version? A unicorn is not real. A rhinoceros is real. It has one horn on its nose. Rhinoceros. It's in the Greek Septuagint. They changed it to unicorn, but we read it like, okay, unicorn. What does that mean? Unicorn is a mythological animal with a horn on its forehead. When you look at the DNA of the Bantu people, it is not seen in Israel. If we are the Israelites, why isn't our DNA from the father or the mother seen in Israel? If we lived there for thousands of years and died there, our skeletons are in the ground. Why isn't our DNA found in any archaeological study? Because the land, the true land of Canaan, is in sub-Saharan Africa. Exactly. This is the land that the Bantu people say we left Egypt and came south. Most Bantu people ain't gonna say we left Egypt, we went northeast. Then we left northeast and came back to Egypt and then came back down south. Matter of fact, Mapanga says that we were here, we went to Egypt, came back down. Well, that will also fit the biblical narrative because the Israelites were in Canaan with Jacob and his 12 sons. And then when Joseph went into Egypt, he was sold to Egypt. Then Jacob and his 11 sons and their wives and kids, they came into Egypt from the land of Canaan. And then they left Egypt after the Exodus. So even with Mapanga saying that we have stories that we were here, down here, we went to Egypt, stayed there, and then left and came back down, that fits the biblical narrative as well, and the DNA supports that. The last thing is that when the Israelites were in Egypt, they were walking around and mingling and intermarrying with the Egyptians, the Cushites, and the Puttites. Just walking around intermarrying. I got an Israelite daddy. He speaks Hebrew. My mama's an Egyptian. She speaks Egyptian. And that socialization and admixture is going to show forth in the language and the culture, the traditions, the dress, the leopard skins, the cheetah skins, the ostrich feather, all these things that the Bantu people still have today, even the staffs that have the little circle on the top, that's an Egyptian staff. Even the staff, even the way that they do certain things that are said in the Bantu language is Egyptian. There's an Egyptian substrate in the Bantu language, and the superstrate is the Hebrew language seen in Swahili, in the Congo, in the Ewe language, in the Bantu languages. Yes, it's there. And the one thing we fail to understand is that when the Israelites did all this mixing, they're living amongst the Egyptians and Cushites and Canaanites and Puttites. We used to see DNA haplogroups in the Bantu people in Israel to attest for a mixed multitude leaving Egypt with Moses. Mixed multitude means that there were Egyptians, Cushites, Canaanites, Puttites that left with Moses. Moses that were either married to a Hebrew Israelite woman or a Hebrew Israelite man. But the DNA of these other nations and their admixture is not seen in Israel. For instance, EM96 is not seen in Israel. EM75, but with the mutation M54 and 41 is not seen in Israel. There's a lot of DNA haplogroups that is of Canaanite or Pygmy Bantu admixture, like Y-DNA B2A and Y-DNA B2B. These haplogroups that are seen by the ancient Pygmies, and the Pygmies today, and the Khoisan, they're not seen in Israel. So if the Pygmies are the Canaanites, as well as the Khoisan, why isn't their DNA seen in Israel? Where's the Y-DNA A1B1A, the Y-DNA A1B1B, the maternal DNA L0D, L0K, L0A, L1C, L2B, L3? Where is it at in Israel? It's not in Israel.
Okay. In closing, Ron, I've heard someone claim that the temple, the city, it is somewhere around Botswana, Namibia.
Namibia, right.
You've heard that?
Yes.
Is there any truth to that?
Well, the problem with that is that Namibia and Botswana are not encircled by mountains. In Ezekiel 36, it says the high mountains of Israel, you will have refuge. You will eat off the mountains, the fruit. You will eat and lie down. It says this, but in Botswana and Namibia, it's not a land that is surrounded by high mountains. Namibia is near the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, so therefore, coastal lands are not going to be mountainous lands. Yeah. You're going to see mountainous lands going towards the inland. Yeah. And Botswana and Namibia is not the center of the earth. The equator is way up north, and the meridian line does not cut through Botswana, either the first meridian line that the Egyptians had, or even the meridian line you have today.
But there could be exceptions, Ron. A mountainous coastal land like Cape Town. It's mountainous.
But it's mountainous, but in one area. It's not like a circle of mountains encompass southern Africa.
Okay. In closing, we didn't have enough time to explore the whole prophecy thing.
Yes.
But what we do now on the channel is that we have a guest and then we invite them over for a live stream where the audience can engage them. So I would want to invite you for that, and then we'll take this conversation further. But coming out of what we had to speak about today, what do you want a person who's watching, who's listening, to come out with?
Well, the Bible already warned us, and it tells us that we as Israelites need to be prepared and on guard, and prepare thyself and all those people that are assembled unto thee against particular nations. That in the Bible, you're not going to see these nations listed today on the map in the world today. But when the Bible references these nations, it's up to us to do the research to find out who are the descendants of Gomer, Magog, Meshach, Tubal, Togarmah, Persia, Cush, and Put. Once we do that, then we will see that the true land of Canaan is in sub-Saharan Africa. And why? Because the nations that are connected to these ancient biblical nations in Ezekiel 38 and Genesis chapter 10 are the people of Russia, China, India, the European Union, 27 countries, United States of America, the white Arabs, the white Jews, Pakistan. Yes, they're in sub-Saharan Africa doing exactly what Ezekiel 38 says. They're not in Israel. That's a red flag. And at the end of the day, we have to always come to the fact that it is not the land of Israel. God told the Israelites to possess the land of Canaan. God told the Israelites to possess the land of Canaan, not the land of Israel. So we have to address who are the Canaanites today, which many of the Israelite leaders will not debate me on. They will not do this. Oh, no, Ron, we won't debate on that. And the reason is because once you find out who are the Canaanites today in the world, who are they? What name do they go by? Where do they say they are indigenous to? What land? What is their DNA haplogroups? Is it seen in Israel? Then we start to have a problem now of, okay, these Canaanites today, the real Canaanites, are not in Israel. They never been there. Their DNA's out there. They don't say they ever lived there.
So, right. So with that same notion, like I was saying before, the 400-year prophecy that they're attaching to America. When you go to Genesis chapter 15, he talking to Abraham. Abraham was in the land of Canaan, and he told Abraham, your descendants are going to leave here and go to a land, and they're going to be afflicted, and then I'm going to come and I'm going to deliver them, and bring them back to the land of Canaan, not to America. That prophecy in Genesis 15 ain't talking about no America. So he's going to bring them back to the land of the Canaanites, just like this brother's saying right here. You got to find out who the Canaanites is, and wherever the Canaanites at, that's where the land of Israel is at. And that's where the drama coming in at. Between that right there and knowing who our Savior and our Redeemer is, once they come to a head, then well, we're gonna be going somewhere. Because he told him, I'm gonna hide my face from you. So either he hid his face, or he came out in Jerusalem at the walking on the water in Galilee. It's one or the other. He said he's gonna hide his face from us, not come not come out walking and healing and laying hands on people and all that. He cast us out of the land of Israel. We went to the west coast of Africa, and he hid himself from us. So in these last days, we find out who he is and reconnecting with him. He's been hid. So it can't be JC. It can't be that narrative in the New Testament. That's garbage. Okay? Anybody got any comments or questions?
Shalom, Brother Leonard. Is he right about the Red Sea being the Nile River?
Yeah.
Okay, sir.
I believe that because, like he said, the Sea of Reeds. Because when you look at, like I was saying with Goshen, when you look at what they did with the basket that they made for Moses, it was made out of reeds, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Where they get the reeds from? Nile River.
Right. Okay.
And even to the days, all along the banks of the Nile River is reeds. I mean, even the papyrus that they was writing on, all this come from the Nile River. Right. So so it's like I said, little things like that where they done brainwashed us and throwed us off it. And then once it's revealed to you, man, you're thinking like Hebrew, it's obvious, man. You can see what they've done. Okay. Yeah. So like I said before, the key, and that's another one of those keys, is to find out the Canaanites. The Most High said that in the prophecy that they saying they bring it over here to America, he said that the time of the Amorites are not yet fulfilled. Who the Amorites are? One of the 7 tribes from the Canaanites. You know, and with no Amorites when Columbus and them came here and the Europeans came here, wasn't no Amorites here. You had all these different Indian tribes, the Cherokee and the Navajo and all them, wasn't no Amorites. The Amorites is in the land of Canaan. Okay? Yeah. So anybody want to pick a scripture? You want to pick a scripture and then we'll read it and do a chapter and break it down and then we'll close out.
Yes, sir. Brother Leonard, it's I had a question. Deuteronomy. Oh yeah, Deuteronomy 33.
Okay.
7. This don't look right though. What it is though, Brother Leonard, it's a verse, and I'm gonna find it. I gotta find it. It's a verse that says, "You shall not hate the Edomite and shall not hate the Egyptian, because you were a stranger in his land." And I just wanted clarity on that, because I mean, I know in Malachi, the Lord of hosts said, that he hates Esau. But yeah, could you clear it up? Is that something they just threw in there? Cause it also said, I gotta find it, because I remember it said that they can come in the temple, and that's why I'm like, I don't know about that.
Right. So when you look at like I said, when you understand what they've done, a lot of the stuff that's in the New Testament, they got out of the Old Testament. So when you say that in Revelations, it talks about a woman that's riding upon the 4th beast, decked, and she's arrayed in red, right? We know automatically that's Esau, right?
Right. Yes, sir. It is.
So and we know that in Obadiah, they stole the land of Israel. They posed as Israelites. That's who was in the land of Israel in 70 AD. So it's a woman, a whore, that's riding on the 4th beast. So what do you mean by whore? Well, the woman that the Most High dealing with, his woman is Israel, the land of Israel, and the people of Israel. That's his woman. Well, they was ran out. He ran them out, and a whore came in. Esau stole the land by Lot in the book of Obadiah. That's the whore, which is posing as a real woman and riding upon the beast. So when you understand that, that's who that. When you understand what that is a false woman. It's not the real woman that's posing as the Israelites that the Most High bride is. So in the last days, just like with we always talk about the suffering servant. The suffering servant is when you go to Amos or Hosea chapter 11, it says, Israel is my son, right?
Right.
The whole nation of Israel. So just like the suffering servant is a whole nation, the woman is a whole nation. It's Esau. The suffering servant is Israel. Like he told Moses to tell the Pharaoh, let my son go. I sent Moses here to tell you to let my son go, which is the whole nation of Israel. So the harlot that's riding on the beast is a whole nation, which is Edomites. And so you got to look. When you understand that, then everything started coming together. Okay.
All right, yes, sir. And Brother Leonard, it is Deuteronomy 23 and verse 7. And just when it says, thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land. The children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Lord in their third generation. When the host goeth forth against thine enemies, then keep thee from every wicked thing.
Right. So like I was saying, so when you say he tells you not to abhor an Edomite, okay, the Egyptians had put us under subjection and affliction in Egypt, right? Whose responsibility was it to deliver us?
The Lord of hosts.
Right. So now we find out what the Edomites have done and who he is. That's him that's over in the land of Israel. So are we supposed to abhor the Edomite? Or is it the Lord of hosts job?
The Lord of hosts. Okay. Yes,
We
sir.
ain't got that's like we always talk about. That's above our pay grade.
Right.
We can't usurp this system that Esau has set up. We can't usurp it, but he can. So we ain't got no business sitting there worrying about what the Edomite doing or feeling a certain way about the Edomite, because it's his job. He the judge. Understand?
Right.
Yeah. So that's what that is.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And like I was saying before, everybody keeps saying that we gotta do fighting these last days. We ain't gotta fight shit because we ain't fighting nothing. Did we raise any rock or stone or get in any club when we was in Egypt with the 10 plagues?
No, sir.
No. So we ain't gotta get nothing over here. We ain't got no business worrying about what no Edomite doing or feeling the same way about him. Okay. Yeah. Ain't that something?
Right. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're gonna close out right here, and we got our Shabbat class in the morning. Our morning Shabbat class at 10-12 a.m. I see everybody in the morning for our Shabbat class. Okay. I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom.
All right.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it, because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up, and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is, and the Godhead.